While some of them are guilty of just chucking you in a big map and making you collect a bunch of random flowers in order to make a bazooka somehow, there are a few gaming experiences out there like an open world to help you forget your worries. Let's take a look at just 20 amazing open world games that can distract you for an hour or 100 from the fact that bananas don't actually look like phones anymore. If you're the kind of person who refuses to touch a game unless it runs at 120 FPS in 4K with ray tracing bouncing off the main character's forehead, please do stick around for a second. Delusion looks like it crawled out of a warehouse for PS1 games that were too weird to ship. And that's the point. Beneath the chunky polygons and surreal colour palette is one of the most fascinating atmospheric open worlds in recent years. Set in a skyborn kingdom held together by crumbling magic and questionable philosophy, Delusion feels like an RPG dream someone half remembered from the late 90s. You're free to wander floating islands, pick moral fights with cults, chat to philosophers in masks, and make choices that actually ripple through the world. It's weird, clever, and very reactive as well, despite the small budget and scale. There's no pointless busy work or checkbox hunting here, you just got exploration, discovery, and a constant sense that something's gone terribly wrong in the most beautiful way possible. Delusion proves that atmosphere and intent beat shiny textures a whole lot of the time, so if you want to find yourself a cool indie open world game, you can do a lot worse than this. Dying Light on the surface may seem like just another open world zombie game, but you can jump on and off their heads here. That did it for me back in 2015, and it does it for me in 2025 too. The game drops you into a decaying city full of infected, bandits, and questionable parkour routes that lets you sprint, vault, and panic your way across rooftops like the world's wettiest career. You scavenge by day, then basically survive by night. You see, once the sun goes down, the tone shifts from power fantasy to sheer panic as fast and meaner creatures crawl out and start chasing you through the streets. It's still one of the best examples of dynamic tension in open world design, and those volatiles can always just go away. Combat's full of improvised weapons and crunchy strikes, and the movement system makes even simple errands feel like really cinematic. Even a decade on, crikey that went fast, Dying Light is just fantastic to play, and it has a mood and feel that is hard to replicate. The second game is also pretty decent, and there is also the Beast for you to check out after that one. Ghost of Tsushima sits right on the line between artful and blockbuster. It's basically the kind of open world game that Ubisoft forgot how to make. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai slowly realising that honor won't save anyone from an invading army. What follows is a methodical unravelling of tradition delivered through a truly stunning contemplative game. The island itself is the star and just a super inviting place to explore. Fields sway, foxes guide you to secrets, and the wind acts as your compass, which is a generally pretty clever way to keep you exploring without cluttering the screen up with map markers and such. It's open world design stripped of all the nonsense really. Combat is pure samurai cinema, and every slice of your blade feels like a deleted scene from Seven Samurai, or that bloke that used to slice water bottles. Remember him? What a chad. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't try to reinvent the open world machine, it just gives you a neat sword, some very helpful breezes, and the license to feel very, very cool. Its sequel is also well worth checking out. Gravity Rush 2 takes the laws of physics, says nah, not for me thank you, and immediately backflips off them. It's a sequel that doubles down on everything strange about the first game, and also brilliant. You've got weightless combat, upside down cities, and a plot that's somehow heartfelt and completely incomprehensible at the same time. You play as Cat, who can shift gravity at will. That sounds pretty empowering and fun until you plough headfirst into a building for the 10th time in a row. But once it all comes together, and you understand how the game works, it is brilliant. The sense of movement still puts most open worlds to shame. The tone swings from slapstick to serious faster than the camera can keep up, but that's part of the charm. Not everything lands here, but it doesn't matter when it's taking really impressive creative swings like this, and it's just a kind of game you won't really see anymore. Gravity Rush 2 was, as you might expect, a bit of a failure, and its sheer existence feels miraculous, especially because you can't see Sony backing something like this these days. Kenshi looked at modern open world design and decided to remove about 80% of that rather rigid structure that they all stick to. There's no main quest, no chosen one, and definitely no hand holding. You might even lose your hands. You start out as a starving nobody with a stick and a dream, which usually lasts about 4 minutes before someone steals your shoes and then steals your hands. It's a world that generally doesn't care if you live or die, and that's what makes it such a crazily good open world. You can build a crew, scrape together some money, maybe start a farm, or accidentally join a cannibal cult. Half the stories you'll tell are just you failing upwards through sheer persistence. It's ugly, sure, clunky, and occasionally cruel, but it's also one of the most reactive sandboxes ever made. There's a bleak sense of humour baked into it all though, like the world's laughing with you, not at you. Every decision will probably ruin someone's day, and it will most likely be yours when you lose most of your limbs, including your hands. Kenshi represents open world freedom without safety nets. It's rough, ridiculous, and completely unforgettable once you get lost in it.
Oh gosh, you've got some energy.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a mud-soaked medieval sim about doing your best to not die of bad decisions and bad hygiene. You're Henry again, who's still mostly winging it through a world that feels just like medieval times. I should know. I was there. Swords are heavy, armor's expensive, and there are no funny beer drinking apps to while away the time. It was a challenging period for everyone. That's the appeal though. Through botched sword fights, drunken mistakes, and dialogue choices that spiral out of control, you will learn the hard way. It's less about power fantasy and more about getting by, and the attention to detail borders on obsessive. The first game already nailed the atmosphere, and this sequel just builds on it while also sanding down some of those rougher edges. More freedom, better pacing, chunkier combat, yet still gloriously grounded overall. There are NPCs with routine, systems that don't care if you're lost, and whether that ruins your plans, because of course it does. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the kind of open world that feels so well designed that you can almost smell the dung and low life expectancy. As soon as your head hits a sign and you go flying off your horse, you'll know that Warhorse outdid themselves here. Mad Max got shrugged off as another open world game with towers when it launched. Even I didn't like it that much, as I'd come fresh off Metal Gear Solid 5, like a lot of people. That was a bit unfair, because it's one of the best examples of how to make desolation not boring. The map's just sand, rust and wreckage, basically, yet it somehow never feels like empty. There's always a camp to tear apart, a convoy to ambush, or a storm waiting to kill you. Driving is pretty heavy, dirty and violent, just like your mum. The magnum opus isn't just a car, it's your livelihood, your weapon, and occasionally your Gilvin. Combat, well, if you like Arkham, you'll like this because it's the same basically, only grimmer, sandier, and louder. It is kind of repetitive, sure, but the feedback loop of scavenging, upgrading, and surviving is pretty fun in a very specific way. The story barely matters, it is a Mad Max game, but the tone does hit pretty well. The world looks sun-bleached and half-dead, the people speak in grunts and prophecies, and Max himself sounds tired of being rebooted. It's not perfect, but there's a reason why some still go pretty mad for this one. In Outward, you're just another idiot with a backpack trying not to freeze, starve, or get cursed to death. It's an RPG that takes survival extremely seriously, forcing you to actually plan before leaving town. Did you forget your bedroll? Congratulations, you're dead. It's really not for everyone. Really not. Combat's clunky because it should be. Again, you're not a chosen one, you're a villager swinging a stick and hoping for the best. The magic system's like buried under rituals and preparation. The map gives you no real markers, and the only way to succeed is to keep hitting your head against a wall until it hurts a bit less. Somehow all that friction makes it feel more immersive than a lot of bigger budget games. But it can also be quite peaceful sometimes. Long stretches of walking, quiet nights by the fire, the occasional sense of competence when something finally goes right. It's not the most perfect game ever, but it is one well worth checking out. Would. 2 is also coming out soon, I think. Outer Wild starts like a cozy little space adventure and becomes Groundhog Day meets Interstellar before long at all. You're an astronaut from a backwater species who's hopping between planets to poke at ancient ruins and figure out why the sun keeps exploding every 22 minutes. It's because you're stuck in a time loop, you big silly, and everything you do is just another way of learning how small you really are. Each discovery changes how you see the world rather than what you do in it. The The planets are small but full of surprises. There are sand drains between thin worlds, gravity bends caves into knots, and entire ecosystems collapse in slow motion. You're never told what to do explicitly as such, you just follow curiosity until it leads somewhere wonderful or kinda horrifying. There's nothing else quite like it in particular. It's just a perfect mix of melancholy and awe. It's the rare open world game that trusts you to care, and by the end, you absolutely will.
Better a thimble of blood in the vein than 1,000.
Pathologic 2 is here to watch you slowly unravel while insisting you're helping. See, you're a plague doctor returning to a dying town, trying to save people who mostly hate you in a sandbox world that doesn't pause when you're tired, hungry or lost. Everything's decaying and the game's only real question is how long you can put up with it all. It's miserable, in a fun way, we promise, sometimes. Every decision costs something, every success feels hollow, and every failure can feel brutal. You'll ration medicine, barter for food, and realise halfway through that the town has more personality than any of its residents. The plague is random, time is cruel, and you can't save everyone. Sometimes you can't even save anyone. Pathologic 2 is basically the end product of taking Stalker and somehow making it more miserable. It's not an easy recommendation, but it's the kind of game that you won't forget in a hurry. And hey, there is a third game to look out for that will beat you up in more interesting and more HD ways than ever. Project Zomboid presents basically the most convincing end of the world ever made. It opens with one simple message: this is how you died. From there it's all on you, foraging, barricading, cooking, panicking and dying in increasingly stupid ways. Oh, it does have multiplayer, so take that and add other idiots into the mix as well. There's no story as such, just a slow apocalypse that unfolds however you let it. You build a base, stockpile beans and then burn it all down because you left a shrimp in the oven. That didn't happen to me. That definitely didn't happen to me. The systems work together brilliantly to ruin your day, and you'll just keep coming back for more. You know why? It's brutal, but it is honest. Just the cold reality of trying to last another night in a dead world. When you finally do slip up, and you will, it's usually because of something mundane, like tripping over a fence or misjudging a window jump. Every death feels stupid, and every stupid death feels earned. It's the best kind of survival sim, and I could easily lose thousands and thousands of hours to it if I didn't have a job.
This is bloody mad! Oh man, up ahead!
The best compliment you can give Red Dead Redemption 2 is that it's such a shoo-in for 1,000 different lists that it can feel like a boring inclusion sometimes, but you just kind of have to. It's stunning and so committed to realism that even picking up a can of beans feels like a moral choice. You play as Arthur Morgan, an outlaw watching his world collapse in slow motion. Rockstar built a ridiculous level of detail here. Every routine, every horse testicle, every conversation feels handcrafted. The pacing, the quiet moments by the campfire, it's all there to make you feel like you've lived something, not just played it. The story's excellent, it's long, sad, occasionally meandering some places, but anchored by one of the best character arcs in any game. Arthur's weary decency cut through the noise of a world that's basically already over. You could argue that it is a bit slow, but that's what Rockstar were going for. The Wild West is dying, and revolution doesn't happen overnight. In Satisfactory, you're dropped onto an alien planet and told to build a factory, then a bigger one, then a city-sized one that exists purely to feed the first. What starts as a tidy little assembly line quickly becomes an industrial nightmare made entirely of your own decisions. The only thing it needs is tax dodging, and you've got a simulator for being the world's least lazy billionaire. There's no real goal beyond make it more efficient, which is usually code for make it worse. You'll spend hours chasing the perfect conveyor belt layout, convinced this next redesign will finally be clean and makes sense. It never is. The more you fix, the uglier it gets. It is a surprisingly peaceful game though. The world is gorgeous, the music's calm, and the only real enemy is your own perfectionism. You build, you optimize, you delete half of it because the alignment's off by a pixel, and you just try it all again. Satisfactory doesn't need drama or spooky monsters that come out at night, it just lets your inner engineer spiral quietly into complete madness. Sleeping Dogs is the best open world crime game that everyone forgot about really. It's basically GTA if GTA kept the same feature creep madness of San Andreas going. You play as Wei Shen, an undercover cop in Hong Kong, which sounds like a bad action movie setup, and that's exactly why it works. The driving's pretty fun, the city is packed full of stuff to do, and the melee system's still one of the best in the genre. Fights are quick and full of environmental takedowns that make it all feel punchy and pretty fulfilling. You can suplex a guy into a fan, kick another through a fish tank, then calmly walk away like you didn't just commit light manslaughter in a noodle shop. The story actually holds together pretty well too, though obviously it is a bit tropey. It comes with the territory really. You gotta mix of loyalty, identity, and how far you can push an undercover role before it stops being an act. It's not terribly deep, but it is sharp, and you get pretty immersed in it before the end. It's a shame it never got a sequel because Sleeping Dogs did open world storytelling with style, and also Emma Stone. Yep, she's in it too. Subnautica starts off like a survival game and slowly turns into an anxiety simulator with beautiful lighting and nice fish. Well, some of them are nice. You crash land on an alien ocean planet, scavenge some junk, build a base, and then realise you spent 3 hours putting off going deeper. It balances discovery with absolute dread, and that balance is what makes it so damn good. The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. There's glowing ecosystems, rumbling leviathans, and some super impeccable sound design to accompany them. You're always a few meters of oxygen away from disaster, but the pull to see what happens next never really fades. The game gives you just enough safety to relax before throwing something colossal at you in the dark. The crafting and exploration loop feels purposeful, and the world design really was lacking a bit in the follow-up. Below Zero was okay. Subnautica makes fear and fascination work together remarkably well. You keep diving not because you're brave, but because you just have to see what's down in the depths. Spoiler, it's usually the biggest, scariest fish you have ever seen. A one-time Xbox One exclusive from Insomniac's troubled years, Sunset Overdrive is all colour explosions and bad energy drinks. It's set in a city overrun by mutants after a corporate sugar bomb goes wrong, which is really just an excuse to grind on power lines while blowing things up. The story is absolute nonsense, the humour is a bit tryhard, but it's hard to care when it feels this good to move. The traversal is really what you should play Sunset Overdrive for. You bounce, slide, grind and wall run throughout the city, chaining movement into endless combos. You can see here how Insomniac would go on to make super fun traversal in Spider-Man. Yeah, the city is a bit empty once the novelty wears off, but the movement is what keeps it going. Even after the missions blur together, just zipping around feels great. It's not deep or ambitious whatsoever really, but it's got style and confidence to spare. Sunset Overdrive won't think much, so put brain on ice, play Sunset Overdrive, have time fun. The Long Dark is a game all about constantly learning how to be a little less cold. It drops you into the frozen backcountry of Canada after a geomagnetic disaster and lets you slowly freeze and starve. What a treat. There's no zombie twist here or any secret labs. You just got weather, hunger and wolves. Also bears. It is brutally slow in a good way. Every step matters because every step costs you warmth or calories. You start planning routes like you're in the military. You plan to reach the cabin before dark, ration the matches, maybe don't eat that rancid venison maybe. When something goes wrong, and it will, you will genuinely know the meaning of survival. The atmosphere is incredible here, and probably it's got that same kind of Project Zomboid kind of desolation, sad feel, and it's great. It's quiet, lonely, and pretty peaceful in a, the world I know has kind of gone way. The sound of your feet hitting the snow is honestly surprisingly pretty tense. The Long Dark is the rare survival game that's all about acceptance really. You're not gonna be building a giant monolith here or have a giant clan. You don't conquer the cold either, you just learn how to live for another day. Oh man, what a banger. The Saboteur is a completely underappreciated send-off for mid-2000s open world games. You play as an Irish race car driver turned resistance fighter in Nazi-occupied Paris. Another premise that sounds like it was pitched in a pub. and that is why it's good. What's also good, and pretty surprising really, is that the world shifts between black and white and colour depending on how much of the city you've liberated. It's a pretty neat trick. The driving is decent, the climbing is a bit clunky, and the accents are all over the place, but it somehow gels. From a modern lens, the Saboteur is a bit messy and all over the place, but really it just wants to be really cool, and that's what it is. Pandemic went under right after releasing it, which really is just a huge shame. It's got a lot of flaws, but that's what makes it feel so charming these days. The Saboteur is the kind of open world that doesn't exist anymore, probably because nobody's reckless enough to make one. Get it for a couple of quid and have an absolute blast. Yeah, it's a bit of an obvious one, but The Witcher 3 is still an open world benchmark for a reason. You're Geralt of Rivia, monster hunter, part-time shagger, and full-time grump who's wandering through a war-torn countryside full of peasants who stare at you like a baby on a plane. Every side quest feels like it belongs in its own short story collection. You go in expecting busy work and end up in a moral disaster about love, curses, or body parts that talk. The world is dense enough to keep you hooked for 100 hours without you really noticing. The combat is alright and is maybe a bit long in the tooth today, but you can have real moments of fun still. The real draw is the atmosphere and the storytelling. There are quests here you will never ever forget. Even now, The Witcher 3 feels complete in a way most big games don't, and then it has 2 massive expansions for you to complete after. Pretty good deal really. If you've been missing The Simpsons Hit and Run, this one's for you. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip is a small chaotic sandbox about a guy who decides he's going to drive his car into space, and somehow that's all it needs. No dragons or nothing, just one weird town full of even weirder people and your dumb determination to leave it behind. It is profoundly stupid. You run around helping locals with nonsense tasks, collect junk and upgrade your beta car until it's more dream than machine. The driving is pretty unreliable, the jokes land about half the time, but none of that matters because it's just plain old PS2 fun. Now the world is tiny, but it is dense with charm, the soundtrack has just pure good vibes, and the whole thing feels like something a dev made as a dick about with mates. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip might not take you far, but it's impossible not to smile while it lasts. And I hope you smiled while this video was on, eh? How's that for a segue? This is the outro now. Do you know how hard it is to say Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip? I keep saying Tiny Terry Turbo Trip. Try saying that 5 times fast down in the comments. I've been Jimmy, be good to have you, and I'll catch you in the next one.